Ichiro here for Umbra Games with a review of Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception, played on PlayStation 3. The Uncharted crew returns this time on a journey to follow the steps of Sir Francis Drake, as Nate theorizes that he went places that he didn't tell Queen Elizabeth I that he found. Piecing together pieces of Drake's journal and other stolen artifacts, Nate and Sully go and try to find exactly what it was that Sir Francis had discovered. Now, gameplay itself hasn't deviated from the Uncharted course, being primarily a cover shooter once the action begins, with many opportunities at stealth before the troops come marching in. Nate can carry a full-size gun and a sidearm at all times, and can switch either on the fly as enemies drop them. Weapons are the standard fare, with pistols, various sizes of machine guns, a grenade launcher, a rocket launcher, as well as a couple of sniper options, both with burst fire or some serious stopping power. While I do enjoy some of the set pieces and battles set up in this iteration, it's not without its frustrations and complaints, similar to how I felt about Uncharted 2. There are times upon death that you respawn in a situation where if you don't head to a specific point A immediately, you'll die in the first couple of seconds you're alive, leaving this game feeling sometimes like a trial and error death fest. And also there are situations where this cover shooter has no cover, much like that castle scene at the end of 2 that was so frustrating. The circle button continues to both attach you to cover and to let you roll, but it also grabs enemies. And that's kind of a dangerous combination when an enemy surprises you by popping behind your cover and you try to roll away, and instead you get into the fist-fighting QTE type thing, while other enemies in the area are covering you in bullets. Speaking of which, I really don't like the fist-fighting part to this game because it does feel more like a quick-time event where you just press buttons that appear, rather than it feeling like organic combat. I realize this gives them the ability to make a little bit more cinematic action, but I also feel like it cuts a bit into the smoothness of gameplay. And I don't mean to sound so overwhelmingly negative about combat. I mean, it is a good time, it just has a few frustrating points. I mean, we did have some new features, like, I really did appreciate the unique perspective that the vertical climb shootouts presented. Now for the non-combat scenes, we're once again doing what I call platform seeking, figuring out ways to get up, down, or across, always looking for this slightly different colored piece of scenery indicating Drake can make contact, usually yellow. There are also quite a few chase scenes in Uncharted 3 as well, both running into the foreground and chasing somebody away. There is some weirdness in the way Drake moves this time around, as when he changes direction he actually has character animations for it that are a little bit more pronounced, making it often feel a little bit stumbly. He'll also put out his hand often and look like he's brushing against a wall when you get close, but I think more often than not I wasn't close enough to the object he was trying to touch, so it always just looked kind of funny. The third gameplay mechanic in Uncharted 3 is once again the puzzle solving segments. I don't feel like I was using Drake's diary quite as often to solve things as I did in 2, but the puzzles are fairly clever, requiring some switches and some climbing and putting puzzle pieces in the right place. Now the final gameplay mechanic of Uncharted 3 is walking and waiting. We flash back to Drake's childhood, we waste time making a point that Nate is getting desperate and in danger while walking super slowly across sand dunes, and we walk through crowded markets. If you can't tell by my tone, I wasn't really happy with the pacing of these segments. Now the world traveling Uncharted is always an exciting part to me, seeing where we're going and where we're going to end up next. Drake's Deception takes us to Colombia, a forest in eastern France, and to countries like Syria and Yemen. As always with the series, Naughty Dog again uses the ability to push the PlayStation 3 to extremes, with dazzling landscapes and architecture, combined with excellent textures and lighting. Collectibles return once again in the form of treasures, that small blinking you can occasionally catch in the corner of your eye. PlayStation trophies are awarded again for killing X amount of enemies with each weapon, but other than that, there really isn't a whole lot of replay value to be had here. So I'm almost positive that you could sub out proper nouns, that is people and places, about the plot of Uncharted 3 and no one would know that you weren't talking about Uncharted 2. For example, and I guess this could be sort of spoilery, but the final stretch of which game is discovering a hidden city, opening a set of doors and being amazed that such hidden beauty can exist, forgotten, and then once inside some supernatural soldiers attack and you're gonna die a few times figuring out how to best handle them, then you'll go to the core of the city and find the thing you're looking for, realize that it needs to be destroyed and not see the light of day, and then as you try and leave, the city will crumble and you will barely make it out alive. Did you figure out which one? So while I continue to give props to Naughty Dog for their presentation and their ability to create drama and the complexity and the beauty of the environments they create, I'm gonna have to take away points for story this time. I mean, in a typical Mario game, the plots are substitutable, but I think we've come to expect more from the Uncharted series. Half the reason I play these games is for that Indiana Jones-esque story. I love these characters, but I just don't see any character growth, and we're in the same place we were last time, where Drake sets out on another adventure and gets nothing out of it. And I realize kind of how Indiana Jones stories come out too. I mean, he's not seeking the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant for his own possession, but if he hadn't uncovered it in the first place, there wouldn't be a story. But, like Indiana, the thing that Nate seeks are stuck in the trope of being an object of great power that he needs to hide or destroy so his rival of the weak can't take it and use it for their evil designs. The difference is, Indiana never really sought out to be rich. Most of what he sought was the search for knowledge and promotion of archaeology. You know, this belongs in a museum and all that. Whereas Nate and his cronies set out to be treasure hunters. When they leave the scene and everything's complete, it's always the, well, I guess there wasn't much treasure there after all, and Sully will clink a few coins in his hands as they walk away. You know, it took me until writing this review to figure out why this game was called Drake's Deception, because I feel like Nathan Drake is constantly being deceived by the company he keeps. In fact, I often wonder why he even bothers expanding his circle beyond Sully, because he always seems to get stabbed in the back. So why would this one be named after his deception? I then finally realized the title was about Sir Francis Drake and the deception of the Queen. Yeah, every once in a while I'm a little slow. Along that point, though, there is an interesting conversation during the childhood flashback where Sully hints that Nathan Drake is not his real name. Which is odd, because all this time, I assumed that was a basic premise of the game and explained Nate's curiosity for adventure. Oh well, hopefully Uncharted 4 will provide some answers. Don't forget, Uncharted 3 has been released in HD on PlayStation 4 in the Uncharted trilogy called the Drake Collection. Since I put it off for so long, I personally wanted to hit these games in their original format for my first time through. While overall I would say I really like the Uncharted series, to me, 3's kind of been the low point so far. I mean, it's well produced, has its excellent presentation, but it just wasn't quite as much fun to play. The Uncharted series classifies as a third-person shooter platformer hybrid, and as such lands on my scale at a 69 out of 100. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching. If you like my videos and would like to be notified when they're released, feel free to subscribe or follow me on Twitter @UmbraGames.